Andrew!
Man, how you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
Good, man. We're already 1 month through. We're into the second month of the Trump presidency. I know the
What?
first month was only 10 days, but we're into February now.
Okay, gotcha.
So we only have 47 months to go, dude. It's going quite well. We made it 10 days. We can make it 47 more months. That's all I know. Pro-
47 more months. All
Yeah.
right, let's
So
do
that's
this.
what we got.
Ah,
Um, So the other night, I called you right after I saw the first plane crash, which the first one, there was actually a second one. There was an F-35 that crashed the day before, but the pilot ejected. Nobody was hurt. Lost a
that was
$100
in
million
Alaska.
airplane. Yeah. So that was day one. Day two was the chopper, the Black Hawk helicopter that hit they call it a CRJ. I can't remember what CRJ stands for, but a smaller plane. It's an American Eagle plane. Um, I wish I should have looked up what CRJ stands for because that's all they kept calling it in the news conferences today. Hold on, let me.
Yeah, I didn't know that that fighter pilot ejected. That was the day before that.
Yeah, that was the day before.
And then we had a third one so that's 3 days in a row that we had.
Yeah, Canadian regional jet, I guess.
Huh.
Anyhow, so a smaller plane. It's like an American Eagle, like not the big old one you normally get on.
Yeah.
So do you remember though? As soon as I saw that this was happening, I called you, and I was in a heated mood at the moment. Do you remember what I instantly said we should do? Or not we, but Democrats.
Oh, blame Trump.
Yeah,
I
blame
told you
even.
no, Trump's gonna blame them
Well, no,
immediately.
I think I said at the time, like this really, you can't pin this on Trump, but if Trump had the chance, he'd pin it on Biden. So they should wake up tomorrow and come out swinging and say this is Trump's fault. Because if this had happened 2 weeks previous, before Trump took office, Trump would be tweeting first thing in the morning that this is Biden's fault. So they should
Oh
do
yeah.
it. And then we both kind of agreed that the Republicans aren't shameless enough to do that. But Trump came out swinging the next morning, man. He came out with a press conference right off the bat. Blamed Biden, blamed Obama, blamed DEI. Trying to think, who else did he? Mayor.
Everything's DEI's fault.
He blamed Mayor Pete too. What was funny is right after he spoke. First of all, he's been going on at length about DEI recently. Okay, and his whole thing is like you should only hire the best, which I would agree with as a yeah, hire the most talented person, especially for a job like that where lives are on the line. But then he always makes it a point of how they're only going to hire the best, and in his administration, they're only going to hire the best. Then he has four people he rolls out behind him: a former Fox News weekend host, Pete Hegseth, a
Uh-huh.
former Fox News host slash Real World Boston host or a contestant, I guess, Sean Duffy, who's going to be the
Okay.
new transportation secretary, and then a former author slash venture capitalist in the vice president JD Vance. So it's like those people weren't hired because they were the best. They're hired because they're popular and they have followings and they're Fox News hosts and all that. So
Well, hold on. The first thing is loyalty. That's the
loyalty,
reason.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, if we're hiring the best to be the defense secretary, that's not Pete Hegseth at all. Anyhow, I think we
Uh,
talked about his confirmation the first or a couple of episodes ago, so not going to go down that road. Um, I think that the Sean Duffy at one point said, "The buck stops with us. There will be no what do you say? No passing the buck," is what he said. And it's
hmm.
like, no, it's the first thing Trump did is come out and said, "This isn't my fault. This is Biden's fault." But then two speakers later, it's like, we will not avoid accountability. Bullshit. You already did. Like so.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours later, Trump holds a an executive memo or whatever signing the Oval Office and officially signs that it's Biden's fault. Uh, so in
Officially
rate,
signs that it was Biden's fault. Hold on.
yeah. Now,
How does that work?
so he cited a couple different things, and he cited these DEI pushes for the air traffic controllers. Now, we've had a shortage of air traffic controllers that's been getting worse and worse for the last 25 years. Okay, so there's been a
Okay.
problem. In 2013, Obama put in some DEI type stuff at the FAA, I guess, for air traffic controllers, and it's been in place ever since. It was in place for all 4 years of Trump's presidency. Trump never undid it. In fact, in 2019, Trump launched his own what was called a air controller diversity program. And Trump had a news conference. You can find the clip of him at a press conference talking about launching this air controller diversity program. So that's 2019. Okay. Now he shows up and he's like, "This diversity program is the problem. It's all Biden's fault." He tried to say that Obama put it in and I undid it, and then Biden re-put it in. That's not at all what happened. And he got asked that a couple times where they were like, "When exactly did you undo this? Like, was there a bill? Was there anything?" No, there's no evidence of that at all. He let it ride. In fact, he expanded upon the program, like I said, in 2019. Now, try to convince a Republican of that. Good luck. Like they're not hearing that. Trump said it's Biden's fault. It's Biden's fault. Um, anyhow, yeah. So it was a very this whole and then another plane crashed the next night. Which have you seen the video of that one yet?
I have, yeah.
So I'm not saying it was a missile. I know there's people that are saying it was a missile, but I'm just saying that plane was coming down like pedal to the metal, full speed, as fast as it could, straight towards the earth. Like planes don't normally crash like that. I'm very interested to see what ends up being the reason that happened because normally they're trying to pull up and they're kind of gliding in and they try to do a soft
Yeah.
landing and it doesn't work. And no, this thing was pointed to the ground with the engines at full throttle. Like so that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, unless the guy like passed out or something.
Something had to have happened. I have no clue
Yeah.
what happened, but
Or
something
or he was doing suicide by
maybe. Yeah.
craft.
So that
I
plane
don't
had a
know.
5-year-old girl that was just had a surgery, I guess, in Philly, and her mom and like a doctor and then a flight crew. So yeah, it's like 6 people. I didn't even see today how many people on the ground died. I know it crashed into a populated area, but I have no clue if they have fatalities for how many people like died on the ground from that plane crash. Have you seen
I
that?
didn't hear anything about that. I didn't hear anything about it either.
If it's zero, I'll be
I heard there was
shocked.
injuries. I never heard. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
hear anything about
Yeah.
deaths. So.
Hopefully it's zero. I remember last night the videos I was seeing, I was like, yeah, there's definitely not zero. But if that's the case, super
Hmm.
duper. So
Well, at least it was at night.
yeah. So with this, so we have this historic air traffic being an air traffic controller, from what I've read in the past 2 or 3 days, apparently it's a shit job. It's very stressful. It has a high suicide rate. Like people like it's
Oh.
just a stressful job. You don't want to have to do that. They don't get paid enough.
Yep.
So they've been trying to find ways to bring in different people to that job because we don't
And
have.
here's the thing is if you're going to go through all that flight school training and everything, like you want to be a pilot, you don't want to be an air traffic controller. And I'm
Yep.
sure you have to do that plus some to be a air traffic controller.
They have to go through a lot of training. I was reading about it today. They go. Nobody gets just, oh, you're a woman. We need a woman. Come on in here, and no, that doesn't happen. Um, so I don't. It's weird to me because the problem is we have a shortage, and it appears that one controller was kind of doing two jobs that night. Normally, there's two separate people, one person controlling the Army helicopters and one person controlling the inbound people coming in for a
Mm.
landing. One guy was trying to juggle both that night. I bet it's because of a shortage which has been going on. Now, because of that, Trump came in and now he fired all the leadership for the FAA and the TSA and all those safety. That's going to suck down the road, but you can't. That didn't have a direct correlation to what happened already. Like it's only been a couple days since he fired all them. Now it's going to cause problems later, but you can't pin that on Trump. What I will pin on Trump and Elon more than anything is how they sent out that email about 5 or 6 days ago saying, and I guess said all you have to do is reply to this email and in the subject line or type resign, and we will pay you for I think 7 or 8 months or something like that is what they're
Yeah.
offering them. But there's anybody and air traffic controllers all got that memo. They got that email. So we've already got a shortage, and now you're trying to convince them to resign. Dude, so it's either going to lead to safety issues or we're going to have to limit how many flights are in the air because we don't have the controllers to man the towers. So,
Yeah. Well, and
gotta
I'm sure that caused more stress upon the air traffic controllers and probably somebody called in sick because they're under stress because they got that letter a couple days before.
Yeah. I mean, if you're
Plus, I did hear that the helicopter was flying above where it should have been flying.
so
And have you seen the flight path? That like the planes take a flight path and it's like a straight flight path, and the helicopters follows that, but like cuts in and out of that flight path a little bit.
yeah, and so the apparently from what they said today at their briefing, the helicopter laterally, being left and right, was within the lane it should have been in. So it didn't venture out of that. Now the ceiling for the helicopter was supposed to be 200 feet. So this is what's weird, and they were trying to say like, hey, we don't have all the data yet. Once we get all the data, this is probably going to change. But what they can tell from the flight recorder from the plane is the plane appeared to be at 325 feet elevation plus or minus 25 feet. So between 300 and 350 feet elevation is where they think the plane was
And it
when
was
it got hit.
landing.
Yeah, when it got hit, it was coming in for a landing. Um, they said that the only number they have access to right now is the radar from the ground, and the radar from the ground had the helicopter at 200 feet. Now they're saying that once they get the flight recorder from the helicopter, that will probably change because
Yeah.
clearly, if the plane got hit at 325 feet, then it makes sense that the helicopter was also there. But
Yeah.
the only data they have right now shows the helicopter was at 200 feet like it should have been. So the radar might have messed up.
Well,
Uh,
it also could be somebody trying to cover their tracks.
could be a lot of things.
The military trying to cover their tracks because they messed up, and yeah.
So here's the deal. I would say 100% it doesn't appear the airplane did anything wrong. The airplane was coming in for a landing right like it should. The helicopter was in the wrong place. It shouldn't have been there. It appears through the radio traffic you can hear, they tell them, hey, there's an inbound plane coming. Basically use your visual something. I can't remember what it is. And they were on like visual flight rules at that point, meaning they could deviate a little bit out of their flight path to avoid that plane. It's basically the command. That's what they were
Hmm.
given approval to do. And they said, yep, we got it in sight. Well, there's planes coming in on runway one, which is the busiest runway in America is runway one there, and this
Hmm.
plane was coming in on 33. One goes like this, and 33 kind of comes across like this.
Yep.
Um, they're saying because of the other planes that were coming in at that moment that when it got called to the helicopter probably did see a plane, the wrong plane. It's yep, we got him in sight. Okay, we're keeping our eye on him.
Hmm.
It also appears they might have had night vision goggles on, and when that happens, it limits your field of view. You don't have any what is it called when you look out to the side?
Reprieve.
Yeah, peripheral view. Thank you. So that seems very likely to me is that the ground called to him and said, "Hey, you're about to be going crossing paths with a plane. Take a look at it. Use visual whatever to deviate from it." They looked at it. They saw one, and they're like, "Yep, we're good. That plane's not even really coming close to us. We're good." And they didn't see the other plane coming from this way. Seems like
Yeah.
that's what happened, and that makes sense. Doesn't excuse the helicopter being above 200 feet if that's the rules, as they can't be above 200. Now, what happened tonight, they've been withholding the last name from who was on the helicopter. There's two names they've released so far. I'm going to go on a rant here in a minute, just so you know. But the two names they released so far were both white males flying the helicopter. The
Uh-huh.
third name they were holding on to, so everybody's like, oh shit, it's going to be a woman or a black person or a Mexican. It's going to be somebody where they're going to blame DEI now. Sure enough, turns out it was a woman. She was, I think, 25 or something like that. Graduated from the Army college, whatever that is, West Point, I guess, something like that. In 2018, in 2019, started flight training. She's been promoted to captain. She apparently does a good job. Where she screwed up, and I joke when I say she screwed up. She part of one of the things she did was she helped the White House with certain things over the last couple of years. So she was on a
Uh,
detail that would go over and do stuff at the White House. So Republicans are saying, "Oh, she was a captain and she worked in the Biden White House. Like this is a Biden conspiracy or something." I don't really know what they're trying to say is the conspiracy here,
a
but
Biden
yeah,
conspiracy. Hmm.
her family, the reason they didn't release her name for the last couple of days is because her family was begging them not to because they knew that Trump would blame her being a woman. So they were asking the army to not release her name, and they finally gave approval tonight. Um, what do
Damn.
you think? You think Trump's going to jump on this, the fact that it was a woman pilot?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. This it's not
So here's my big rant right now, okay? They're going to do investigations on this. Trump jumped the gun and came out immediately and said this is DEI's fault. A couple of reporters in that initial press conference pressed him on that, and they said, "Hey, you guys haven't even done the investigation. How can you say this is DEI?" And at first he said, "Well, I'm just saying it could be." And then he got asked the same question by another reporter, and he said, "Well, it's just common sense. Clearly, it
yeah.
was." So now the people running these investigations are going to be Trump loyalists. So we have a predetermined outcome. They need the investigation to show that it was DEI to support what Trump said. If they come out with a report that says it wasn't DEI, then immediately the press is going to go to Trump and say, "Hey, you said it was DEI. This report says it's not." They'll probably get fired for putting out that report, not agreeing with Trump. So, because of Trump's reckless statements here,
Well, what happens if it's DEI anyway? If I mean, like, if they do like come up with some crazy conclusion that it was DEI and she wasn't fit to be a captain or flying a helicopter, and they just put her in that position and put everybody else's life at risk,
mm,
like, what happens? The person who promoted her captain gets canned or what?
I don't know. And they'd use it as an excuse to get women out of combat roles in the military.
Which is
So
what Pete Hegseth has already said he wants to
he
do.
said that on many podcasts, although in his confirmation, he didn't say he wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but that's the purpose of the investigation now would be to figure out what went wrong and prevent it from going wrong again in the future. they're
Yes.
not going to look for the real reason. They're going to look for evidence to support the conclusion that it was DEI and stop
Yeah.
when they get to that. So we're not going to gain anything out of any investigation that comes out of this simply because Trump couldn't just say, "Hey, we're waiting on an investigation. I want to make sure I have all the facts." No, he came out immediately and said, "Oh, common sense says it's this. It's clear." And he even said at the beginning, he said, "Well, we don't know what happened, but we have some opinions, and we're probably going to share those opinions now." And it's like, as soon as he said that, I was like,
That
"Stop
is
talking."
so unpresidential to
Yeah, that's where we're at, though.
it. I mean, it is. It's what we expected.
Yeah. So
It seems like he's a little more brazen this time around.
a
A little
hundred
more
percent.
brazen, a
Yeah.
little bit crazy.
Well, part of it is because the first time he didn't think he was going to win, so they didn't have a plan of who was going to staff his administration. So they basically took the RNC, the Republican National Committee. Rance Priebus was the head of the RNC, and they just made him the chief of staff because they kind of just filled the White House with the RNC. And those
Yeah.
people all knew what is legal and what's not legal and what can be done and can't be done. He didn't make that mistake this time. He had a list of people ready to go, and so far I can't even list all the things they've done so far that like are against the Constitution and are going to get challenged in court. And it's like there's about to be a waiting list at the court to see like what cases are going to hear because
Yeah.
almost he canceled USAID, USAID. I want to do a whole episode on that, but basically, we're not going to spend money giving money to any other country for any kind of helping with schools or roads or hospitals or anything like that.
We're gonna
Um,
pull out of all our bases that we have across the world. Is that kind
there,
of part of that?
that's the thing is so we give these countries money and in return we get to have our bases there and
Yeah.
that does help keep us secure from foreign attack. um, as I say every time, if we take a step back, if we relinquish our influence in these areas, China is going to swoop right in. So like if you're China right now, everything that's happening in this last week you love, like you are about to become the dominant country in the world. You're going to have a footprint all over the world. You have
Yeah.
influence in every sphere. China's about to be number one. Like we're giving them that right now. So
Yeah.
and
Yep.
all for the make America first. Let's stop helping other countries and let's focus on America. Cool. While we're doing that, China's not going to be doing that. China's going to be spreading as much as they can. So
Yeah. Well, this
yeah,
is their plan since social media came out, right? Is to divide us pretty
yeah,
much. Yeah.
and that's the scary. I don't know if you saw real quick. Trump is saying he still wants him to sell TikTok. He gave him 75-day extension to try to sell it. And apparently, like the number one person who most likely will end up with it right now is Elon Musk. China apparently has said they'd rather make a deal with Musk than anybody else, and it's because Musk. This is where you can have a fun conspiracy theory. Elon has a lot of business in China. Like a lot of his net worth is reliant on China, I'll say. And Elon's pulling the strings right now of all these things that are happening, and China's getting more and more powerful and getting a better standing around the world because of it. So that's a conspiracy theory I'd like to look at here. Is everything that we're
Yeah.
doing seems to be helping China, and then we've got the Elon to China connection.
Uh,
Interesting, right?
Very interesting. Oh, and
Yeah.
Trump's goods are all made in China too.
Yeah, and so speaking of goods made in foreign countries, the tariffs went into effect this morning. Today's Saturday, at 12:01 a.m. So
No, no, no. He extended it till Tuesday.
no, so there was a report he was extending till Tuesday, and then he came out and said no, that's not the case.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So they're in effect right now.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
they're in effect. He announced at some point today because they went into effect at 12:01, and then less than 10 hours later, he came out and said, "Actually, I'm only going to do 10% on Canadian energy because we get a lot of oil from Canada and natural gas."
Yeah.
And he said he's only making it 10% to help reduce the cost and the impact on Americans. And it's like, time out. You've been saying this whole time that we don't pay the tariffs. Now you're saying you're moving it back from 25 to 10 to help not have the cost burden on us. He's kind of admitting he knows that we're paying these tariffs that Canada's not.
Well, I've got a little conspiracy on this.
Let's hear
So,
it.
he wants to cut taxes across the board and replace all of our tax income with tariff income.
Yeah, we talked
I
about
mean,
that last time.
okay, we did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So this is like just the perfect little storm, and he doesn't really care what happens in the meantime.
I think he's banking on he can do whatever right now, and because it has low approval, 27% of America approve of the tariffs. Like, but he's banking on he can do this now, and as long as he gets it resolved in about 6 months or so, then people will forget about it by the time the midterms come around. That's why he's doing it real quick now, is to get this all done and out of the way. move on to something else.
How
So
long does it take to build oil wells? And how long does it take to build a factory that
yeah.
to make microchips
So
and automobiles and everything else?
here's the other fun part of this. Okay, have you ever heard of NAFTA? You know what NAFTA is?
I've heard of it. North American
Free trade agreement.
free trade agreement. But he
So
canceled that last time and he built his own
yeah.
Trump free trade agreement or whatever he called
So
it.
Clinton put in NAFTA in the 90s. The North American Free Trade Agreement is just a trade treaty with us, Canada, and Mexico. Trump came in his first term and said, "Oh, we're getting ripped off. We have a trade deficit with both these countries. Blah blah." Ripped up NAFTA and then had them sign. He negotiated, and had them sign a new deal, and by everybody's account, including Republicans, it was basically NAFTA again. Like a couple of small things changed, but he just redid NAFTA, but he called it the USMCA, the United States Mexico Canada Agreement.
Okay.
Um, now he's saying that they're ripping us off again. We're currently operating under the deal that he negotiated. So he's no. I wish somebody would ask him this, but like, are you saying you negotiated a bad deal? Like, did you sign a bad trade deal that's resulting in us getting ripped off? Because that's what we're under. Part of that trade deal is no tariffs. Like, everybody's going to play by these rules. Nobody's going to put tariffs on each other.
Oh,
Anyhow, we have violated that treaty, and Canada pointed that out tonight. So, real quick, it was 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, 10% on China. And they asked him why less on China, and this makes sense. I will give him this. We already have a crap load of tariffs on China, so we're increasing it by 10%, which is probably somewhere already around 25%. So, makes sense.
okay.
Um, Canada came out tonight. Trudeau gave a speech along with whoever is running against Trudeau. And they announced their retaliation tariffs of 25%. They're also, I have this written down here. And so it's a 25% on tariff on 155 billion worth of American goods. Trump had said that if any of these three countries put retaliatory tariffs on, he's going to increase them. So Canada's already retaliated. So theoretically, Trump is now going to move those up. I don't know. Um,
Okay. So
can
then Canada's going to move theirs up to match ours.
Right,
And
we're in a
it's
trade war. This is now a official trade war. Canada said that in addition to their 25%, they're going to do a targeted attack on red states. They are stopping buying liquor from any red states, which I guess a lot of the liquor they buy it comes from down here. Most of it's from red states. And
okay.
tonight they're removing any liquor from red states from their shelves. Like they're done selling liquor from America. So they're trying to target Trump voters, which is kind of
Okay.
it's a good tactic. I mean, so.
That's interesting. And I like that they're like targeting red states as opposed to
All of us. Well, I'm in a red
America.
state, so they're targeting me. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
That's interesting. Like Jack Daniels. So did you see what happened in Tennessee?
know what happened
I
now.
forget what something crazy happened. Oh, they made it illegal for any politician to vote not in MAGA's favor in Tennessee.
They didn't word it that way. They didn't say not in MAGA's favor, but to vote against the interests of the Constitution, or they word it in a way. But yeah, basically, you have to vote their way. If you only It's only if you're a Republican or a an actual politician, an elected official, then you have to do
Yeah.
this. So it doesn't apply to regular citizens. But yeah, total crap. That's going to be challenged.
Yeah,
So yeah,
for sure.
all the courts are about to be really busy because Trump is trying to get everything up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court doesn't take every case, so it's going to be interesting to see which ones they even take up. Um, it's gonna be bad. Real quick, Mexico announced right before Trudeau that they are also retaliating, but they didn't say what the specifics were. They said they were going with retaliation Plan B. I don't know how many plans they had, but
Oh,
they said they're trying to do a measured response, so they're going with Plan B.
interesting.
China has not. I haven't seen China said anything yet. So here's where
Okay.
we are. Yeah,
This is gonna be interesting times, Andy.
it's gonna be a blast, dude. Yeah. So the economy right now and the stock market dipped a little bit on Friday. People were saying the market's crashing. It didn't crash, but it definitely took a hit. Now that we have our tariffs in place and now the retaliatory tariffs are in place, I'm super curious to see what the stock market does tomorrow.
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna
tomorrow's Sunday.
be
Sorry, Monday. Yeah.
yeah, I
And
told you I pulled out on Friday.
yep. Um, Starting Sunday in the afternoon, the futures open. I don't know. I don't understand anything about the stock market, but we're going to have an indication Sunday night as to what it's going to look like based off the futures trading.
Right.
So we'll kind of know. But yeah, there could be, who knows? It could be bad Monday and it could just be a bit of a hit. Like it might not be a crash. cross our fingers. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's gonna be
between
interesting.
between these tariffs and now the bird flu is hitting dairy and poultry, so
Oh,
eggs and
dairy now.
chicken. It's been hitting. I guess there's pasture milk has been an issue because
Okay.
it has something to do with birds pooping in the fields that the cows then graze in. It makes sense.
Okay.
So yeah, so that could be a potential issue. And then we have also the lack of migrant labor to like pick the fruit we make here. Like it's gonna take a couple months, but we're headed towards like I don't want to say food supply issues is the best way I can put it. Like I'm not saying we're gonna hit points where the shelves are empty, but like shit's gonna get expensive, supply and demand. There's not gonna be
Yeah.
as much of everything.
Yeah. I mean, and also with the tariffs, we get a lot of food from Mexico, a lot of fruit,
That's
vegetables.
that's most of what the tariffs on Mexico were on is on fruit. And then apparently auto parts. Auto parts like the if a car is made in America, like the parts come from like us, China, Mexico, Canada, like they come from everywhere. So they're saying just with these tariffs that are already on, the price of a new vehicle is going to go up about 3 to 5 thousand.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
and then also the National Association of Home Builders released a statement today saying that this is the lumber coming from Canada having a tariff is going to increase the price of homes and make it to where it's not affordable to build new homes and this and that. So certain industries are trying to speak out and say, "Hey, this is terrible for us." I don't think Trump knows that already. Like I swear he knows, just for
Yeah.
some reason, like this is what he wants, and I don't know why.
It's
I
because
do,
he wants tax cuts for the rich. Again, he
yeah,
wants to he wants to make tax cuts for the rich even more. That's all
that's
he really wants.
it's the only thing that makes sense at this point, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's
Like, you
gonna.
know how many buddies he's gotten because he gave tax cuts to the rich the first time?
Mhm. We're in trouble. Um, the only other thing, real quick tonight, this is just kind of comical to me because a lot of what Trump is doing so far is gonna hurt like his voters. Like the cutting Medicare and Medicaid, if it actually comes to that, it hurts like poor white people in southern states more than anything else.
Yeah.
There's several other policies he's doing right now where they gotta start to realize soon, like this is not good for me that he's doing this. But whatever. When the fires were going on in LA, Trump kept screaming about they need to just turn on the valves. There's plenty of water in the northern side of the state. They need to turn on the valves and they'll have plenty of water in LA and this and that. So Trump, like 2 days ago, tweets out that like he has just sent the military into California to turn on the valves and they've done it and the water is flowing.
No.
And at first I was like, what is he lying? Like what would he turned on the valve? So it turns out what he did is he ordered the Army Corps of Engineers to open the floodgates at two dams and start releasing at full capacity. Okay.
But they
And I
never
was like,
ran out of water. That's the thing.
here's the thing. These floodgates release water downstream. None of it goes to LA. It goes to the Central Valley of California, which is
Okay.
a whole bunch of MAGA farmers. Like that area is red. Those
Uh,
people love Donald Trump. They're farmers. And that water that's being stored in those two reservoirs is for the summer when they need it. Like that water comes down and there's all kinds of irrigation stuff. So they are flipping their shit right now because he's releasing at 100% as fast as he can all the water that they're going to need this summer. It's apparently flooding some of their farms. I don't think it's flooding all of them, but it's flooding some of their farms now, which is going to cause disaster when it's time to plant. Um, they're not going to have the water for the summer, and where he's releasing it, it's going down to something called Tulare Lake, which is it's basically a dry. It's the center of California used to be a huge lake, and it's not anymore. That's where all the farm country is. But he's releasing it down into that area where it's just going to evaporate. So like,
yeah.
it's not going to get used. So yeah, he turned on the valve, and now that's going to screw with our harvest come this summer in California, which is apparently like almonds and some other. I don't know what all is made there.
Yeah.
From what they
Almonds are a
said,
big one down there.
all of the things they listed, I was like, I don't buy that. I'll be fine without that. But still, it's funny because they're Trump voters that are getting hurt because of this.
Yeah, almonds are ridiculous. It takes like 2 or 3 gallons of water to make one almond.
Good
It's
Lord.
like it's an
Yeah.
insane amount of, and they grow them in California
Yeah.
where there's no water.
So
Yeah.
other
I mean, our farming system needs to be revamped anyway. Let's start
other
this.
the good news is they weren't going to have any migrants to help get the produce or whatever, get the almonds off. So nah, we don't need the water because we don't have the produce to actually or the migrants to do it. So we're fine. Um, and then the only other this was just comical to me because this is the best example at we're getting bullshitted by the richest man in the world and the president of the United States. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Trump Trump did put out a tweet 2 or 3 days ago where he said, "I have asked Elon Musk to use his SpaceX to help save the astronauts that are trapped in the International Space Station." And Musk or quote tweeted it with like a "yes sir" like salute, and made it a big thing. And people were like, "Man, Biden didn't even think to ask Musk to help." No, Biden, the White House reached out to Musk in August and said, "Hey, we need your help." And Musk said, "Yeah, it's going to take us 6 months, but we can get them." So this has been on the books. The Biden White House asked Musk to do this 6 months ago. It's just about time to go. And for whatever reason, they just figured, "Hey, let's just lie about this and say that he never asked, and we'll say that I asked, and you're doing it for me." And like Musk and Trump both know that this is bullshit, yet they're both tweeting it out to their fans, like, "Look what we're doing." Like, stupid Biden never even thought to do this. Are you kidding? Like this, it was in the it was a big deal when the astronauts
Dude,
got stuck and the White House asked Musk to do it. It was a big deal back in like August when this first happened, and somehow everybody just forgot about that and is now like, "Yay! Look at Trump using his resources to save the astronauts."
watch. His mission's going to go completely horrible. Rocket explodes in midair, and they're going to blame Biden for it.
Probably. I mean, everything's Biden's fault for the next 4 years. I'm sure of it. So, and they're starting to prime it for that on Fox News. They're telling all their viewers that like, "Oh, well, the economy that Trump is inheriting, it's really on the verge of a recession." And they're trying because they're seeing all the policies he's doing are likely to put us in a recession. So they're trying to prime their audience for like, "No, when it happens, it'll be Biden's fault."
My gosh.
Every economist said that all Trump has to do is slide in there and just keep doing everything the way it's going right now, and the economy will continue to get better, and he can take all the credit for it.
Yep.
And he can't do that. He's got to burn everything down. So,
Besides this AI tech bubble thing, that's a little worrisome.
okay,
Um, yeah, it's all coming out like pretty recently. I guess they've been talking about it for a while, but I've just started paying attention to it. It seems as though like all these tech um, industries revolving around AI are just way overvalued.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Apparently,
Uh,
we probably watched the same video on YouTube, but Tesla is valued at like 10 times the worth of Toyota, yet
yeah,
puts out like a fraction of the cars that Toyota puts out. And it's
yeah,
just, and when they value Tesla, they're not valuing the car, they're valuing like the innovation or whatever, something along those lines. But yeah, they're massively overvalued. I think that Pac-Man maybe had somebody on talking about this.
yeah. I think that was what
Um,
it was. Yeah,
but and so that's the difference though, is if the AI stuff causes like a big tech sector crash, like that's Great Depression level. Like that's going to be major. The tariffs are like recession level, so still bad, but
yeah.
not like, oh shit, like people are jumping out of the buildings and Wall Street type stuff.
Right.
So I'm stuck right now because there's a part of me that's like, man, I hope the Democrats fight this tooth and nail to not let this happen and blah blah blah. And there's a part of me, it would hurt all of us, but there's a part of me that's like, let him do it. Let him do everything he wants to do, so that I think the people need to see what will happen if he does all the stuff that is all along he's been saying what he's going to do. And I had a lot of smart Republicans telling me, "Hey, he's not really going to do that. Don't know. He's just saying that. He's not really. No, he's really doing it all." And now, okay, let's get it on the books. What happens when you do all this? Let's see how it goes. And again,
Dude,
I don't really mean that, but I kind of do right now. But I don't. But
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if the Democrats successfully get into the courts and stop him from doing all these things, then we're going to have to put up with, well, it would have worked if the
The
Democrats
problem
didn't
is
stop me.
everybody's memory is so short.
If it's
Like
a bad enough collapse, if America,
we didn't vote for Trump in 2020 because of the shitty job he did on the pandemic.
yeah,
And then
and
everybody forgot. Everybody forgot what a nightmare he was during the pandemic, and they voted him back in again.
I
Not
don't think
everybody, but a giant chunk of the population.
I honestly don't think it was the pandemic that cost him the first time. I think it was that everybody was worn out. Because with Trump, it's all day, every day. He's always doing something, and I think people were just like, even Republicans were like, "I need a break. Like I can't do this." And then we had 4 years of boring Biden, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Trump wasn't bad." And I think already within a week, people are like, "Oh shit, I remember now. Like I remember
Yeah.
what this was like." So. We'll have to see. We're gonna. Sadly, I'm almost counting on an economic collapse right now, like just so I can be like, "I told you this would happen." I really don't want that to happen, but part of me is like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
what do we do? Do we stop him? Do Democrats stop him, or do they just let him do it and to be able to say, 'I told you so'?"
Well,
I
first of
don't.
all,
I don't think it's.
do Democrats have the balls to stop him?
Not the Democrats in office, but like Democratic lawyers that are going to sue and take this all the way to the Supreme Court. Like there's a guy named Mark Elias that basically he was like 200 and 0 during all the election stuff and just whooping their butts. He's great. He's a constitutional lawyer. He's the one that's already filing suits for a lot of these things.
I
He,
think we fight it. I think we have to fight it. Like
yeah.
we can't just let it happen. I mean, it's like we have to fight it as much as we can, and then some things are going to get through, like the tariffs. Like they can't. I don't think they can do anything about the tariffs. So,
No,
and that's
so
one of the things that's really going to like harm the American citizens, and people are going to be like, "Why are oranges $5 a piece?"
so
And then Trump's going to blame Biden, but people are going to be like, "I don't know." Like,
Well, and
let's be
even the
honest.
tariffs is something they could challenge because the president's not supposed to be able to put tariffs on unilaterally. It's supposed to go through Congress
Hmm.
unless it's a national security issue. And that's why he's saying it has to do with fentanyl coming over the border because he basically turned it into for the national security, I have to do this. So they could challenge and say, hey, this isn't really a national. And I don't know if they'd win that or not, but they could challenge that. He's not supposed to have
Okay.
the power to do tariffs unilaterally. So.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
interesting thing, he should have waited till he got all his picks confirmed because there's a lot of Republicans that are not down with these tariffs. Even Rand Paul came out and tweeted against him, which was shocking to have Paul kind of going against Trump. Um, but he still is counting on these senators to vote in Tulsi, RFK, and who's the other? There's another controversial one right now.
Oh, I don't know who else is in there.
Oh, and Cash Patel. So
Cash.
those are going to be the three hardest ones to get through, and he's kind of pissing off the Republican Senate right now by doing all this. I'm not saying it's going to matter. I'm just saying he would have been smarter to wait another week till all three of those get approved and then start doing this shit.
He can't wait.
Yeah. So I hope I'm wrong, but I see no way the economy's not just screwed right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in a mess. We're in a pickle. I mean, what are we gonna do, Andy?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
Hopefully we're not going to have any more plane crashes. That's all I hope.
Yeah, well, I'm flying to you. I was like worried about. I was like, man, like there's
Yeah. Luckily,
a couple
Tulsa is not
planes.
a busy airport, so you
Yeah.
should be fine going in and out of there. So anyhow,
Nope.
5 days till you're here, I think, something
I'm
like
gonna
that.
bring my parachute just in case.
Do that. You can be the DB Cooper.
Would carry on.
I like it. So, all right, let's get out of here, man.
All right, brother.
I'm
Like,
sure,
subscribe,
yeah, find us
comment.
on Blue Sky, Confident
Yeah.
Idiocracy Pod. Like and subscribe on YouTube. And yeah, other than that, man, I'll see you. We'll do another show before you come down here, right?
I think so.
All right. Talk to you later, buddy.
Peace.